Awesome, thanks. Thanks everyone for being here. As Megan said, I'm joining from St. John's, Newfoundland, a very snowy St. John's, Newfoundland today. We actually have a snow day at the university, but that doesn't stop us working from home. So I'm happy to join you guys today. I'm just going to start before we actually dive into the lesson to make sure that everybody has the setup done. So there was two things required of your setup. One, making sure that you have the files downloaded. This is the files that we're going to work from today. So that's on this link here. I also put this in the Slack channel previously. It's just a couple messages up, so you should see it there. And then you just need to click on this link here, download shell-lesson-data.zip. Click that, you'll see it's popping up both in two places in my downloads and down here. I can open that up. I am, of course, working from a Mac. So if you are on a Windows or a Linux, this is going to look a little bit different. For me, I'm just going to drag and drop this on my desktop. That's where we want it today. You'll see it appears right here, shell-lesson-data. So if you haven't done that already, please take a second to do that now. Also from a Mac, there was very little setup required, as the terminal that we're going to be working from today, indeed the bash shell, which I'll get to in a minute, is already on your Mac computer. If you are working from a Linux, we had you download the git bash. This we don't really have time to go through in the, I was about to say in the warm-up, but in the setup. So hopefully you've had that done, and if not, follow along today, and as this is recorded, you can have a look back at that later. So my terminal is actually right down here in my dashboard, but in case it's not there, you can go up to your magnifying glass, okay, type in terminal when that comes up, and indeed the same thing will pop up. Double click that, and let's open that up. So I'll give everyone a chance to do that. Once you have your data downloaded on your desktop and your terminal open, whether that is on the Mac, on the Windows, or a Linux, go ahead and give me a green yes. So that is the reactions that Megan mentioned previously. And I'm just going to adjust my sharing screen here so everyone can see this a little bit better. Just pop this over here. Okay, good. Still a few coming through. I'll give it about 1 minute, and then I'm going to get started chatting. And you can still finish that up. We won't do anything right away, but we'll get to it within about 5 minutes. All right, hopefully my screen looks okay there. Yours may look a little bit different. That's okay. It's just the default settings on your shell. You may have also changed it at some point. So even if you're on a Mac and it looks different, also okay. We'll chat about that a little bit as well. Okay, I'm seeing 18 checks, so I'm going to move forward just with a little bit of background on what we're going to talk about today. So this session is on the Unix shell. You may also have heard it called Intro to Linux. Okay, essentially we're talking about the same thing. My biggest goals for you in today's session is to start to understand how to communicate with the computer, how to, let's say, not get overly frustrated when something doesn't work out the way that you think it's going to, and start to develop a little bit of troubleshooting skills, and know where to go when you need help. That's really the biggest one of the troubleshooting. And the last thing is it's just to build a bit of confidence with this sort of stuff so that you can move on to the next steps of whatever that is relevant for you. Okay, so the Unix shell. Humans and computers commonly interact in many different ways. We do this with a keyboard, with a mouse, touchscreen interfaces like our iPhones or our iPads, and nowadays often using speech recognition systems. The most widely known way that we interact with computers is something that's called a graphical user interface, or a GUI. Also, GUI is sometimes how it's referred to. So if you hear any of those terms, that's what it means. And this is working through instructions that you're given by clicking a mouse and using these menu-driven interactions. So likely you've been working with GUIs for a long time now and really maybe not known exactly what that was. The visual aid of a GUI makes it intuitive to learn. It also gives you exactly what you need right where it is, but it doesn't scale very well. So if we're trying to do more complex tasks, and I'll lay one out here in a second, this may be quite challenging using a GUI, and this is where the power of the shell comes in. So for example, imagine you're doing a literature search. You have to copy the third line of 1,000 different text files into 1,000 different directories and paste it into a single file. So using a GUI, you would be sitting at your desk and clicking for likely hours. So that's one downside. The other downside is it could be very easy to make a mistake. You may not even know you've made the mistake. And if you do have to go back and correct this. So this is where the power of the shell really comes into play. And while I will not be able to show you this exact example today because we don't quite have enough time for that, my goal is to give you the tools so that you can start to explore these kinds of problems on your own. So the Unix shell is both a command line interface and a scripting language. Okay, it's going to be allow you to do repetitive tasks automatically and quickly. Okay. The big difference with the shell is that it won't give you all the commands that you need and you get to choose from them. You need to start learning the commands so you can type them in yourself. So you'll see very, very quickly once we get started here, typing in the shell ourselves, that we can learn a lot of powerful things by only a few little commands to start with. And as I mentioned, I will show you how to get help to learn the rest of the commands that you need to do whatever it is that you're going to try to tackle with your research tasks. So it does take a little bit of time to learn this. Be patient with yourself, and we're going to get started talking about the shell. So what I see here in front of me, this here is my prompt. Often this is shown by the $sign. So if you see a $sign pop up in the notes, and we'll make sure that we share those with you in the Slack channel so that if you want to go through this after, when you see that $sign, that just indicates that whatever follows it is input. That's what you're adding in. That's what the computer is going to take in and then do whatever it is that you want it to do, hopefully, and give you some output back or run that command. So this is your prompt. Okay, yours may look different than mine. In fact, it probably should look different than mine unless we do have very similar names and both working from a Mac. That's fine. You'll learn to recognize that, and you'll also see this change as we start to move through. Okay, let's start by typing our very first command. This is my cursor here showing me where I can start to type, and we're going to type in ls. Once you type in ls, hit enter. ls is short for listing or list. Okay. And what this command is going to do, it's going to list the contents of my current working directory. So where I sit right now within my computer, it's going to tell me what exists there. Okay. When we press enter, we executed the command. I'm going to be throwing in this type of language and explaining it as I go. Executing is running it. That's our enter key. Okay. So when we're ready to hit it, we hit enter. All right, I mentioned we're going to talk about troubleshooting. Let's do it first off. Let's say I make a mistake and I type KS instead of LS because I'm working really quickly and I don't realize. And I hit enter on that. It's going to tell me bash, which is the name of the type of shell that I'm using. Commit KS command not found. So it's saying, yeah, I don't know what this means. You can't do this because I can't tell what you're saying. So that was my input. This is my output. This is an error. And it's telling me immediately it doesn't know. I would look back and go, right, okay, I meant ls and type that again. Okay, so don't freak out if you hit that enter key too soon or you made a mistake. It's likely a simple typing mistake at the beginning. Okay, best thing for you to do is check the command that you wrote before, check maybe in the Slack channel or look at my screen and see if you can make a correction yourself. If you still have trouble, please reach out. Okay, let's get started with navigating through your files and directories. So this next lesson is all about how you're going to move around on your computer. How can you see what files and directories you have, and how can you specify the location? Okay, we're going to go through this by first talking about our file system. Okay, so the operating system of your computer is responsible for managing all of your files and directories, and this is called your file system. It's organizing our data into files which hold information, and the directories, also called folders. I'm going to try to stick with directories as best as possible, but I know sometimes those are interchangeable. Just know that they mean the same thing. Okay. Now directories can hold files, but they can also hold other directories. Okay. Now you might hear the terms subdirectory, parent directory. That would be the opposite, right? Subdirectory sits within a directory. A subdirectory would sit within a parent directory. Okay. And I'm going to show you a visual here in a second. Next, we're going to learn our second command, which is pwd. So type that in with me, pwd. This stands for print working directory. Okay, this is our where am I of the computer. So once I hit enter on that, it's going to give me some output. This output, again, is going to be unique for each of us because unless we share the exact same last name and a same first initial and a Mac, it's going to be different for you. That's fine. Okay, that should be normal. On the Mac, you'll see that /users and then your username. Okay. On the Windows, it'll likely be capital C : and then backslashes, and it might say something like documents and settings. It could also be users and then your username. Okay. The biggest point to this is that you need to know where you are on your computer. Okay. So this is your default home directory. Okay. So whatever it is that you opened up in, we're in our home directory. Okay. So to understand what that means, just going to share my change my screen for just a second. Okay, in this notes in the lesson content, there's some really good diagrams that you can use, and this is the one I want to refer to here. Okay, there's a couple here. These are two different ones, just showing you what that file directory or that file system looks like. Okay, this here is the root directory, and then within it we have a number of different directories. In mine, it would be root, users, and then there would be another branch down here where it says Fishbein, and that's where I currently sit. Another example of this here. Essentially, we're thinking like almost like an upside down tree. If we think of the root as one place, let's pretend it doesn't spread out below ground, and then we're extending into the branches. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my terminal now. All right. So we talked about the root directory. That is just the slash. So just that /, that's this part right here that I'm showing. Okay. The next is all of the users on the computer. And then the directories are going to be separated by a slash. Okay. So I mentioned a subdirectory. Fishbein is a subdirectory of users. Okay. Not going to go into detail about the other ones that you saw within that file system. You're feel free to read more about that on your own. Okay, let's go back and look at that ls command that we previously learned. So go ahead and type that in again, and we'll talk a little bit about what's in here. So this is everything that exists within my current working directory, which is users /Fishbein. So all of these are subdirectories or files that sit within Fishbein. Okay. We're going to now learn about options or flags. I'm going to try again. This is one of those things that can have different words that refer to it as. I'm going to try to use option as best as possible just for consistency, but know that flag also can mean the same thing. So we're going to type in ls space. The spaces are very important in here as they separate what it is that you're telling the computer. And then you're going to dash and then capital F. This is your option. Okay, so this right here, that's our option. This is our command, and this is our option. Essentially what this is going to do is it's going to give us a little bit more flavor in the command that we're using. So go ahead and hit enter, and you'll notice that my output is a little bit different this time. Okay, so now I've got a little bit more information. This particular directory doesn't give me a whole ton, but we'll see shortly that you can see a little bit more, as most of these are directories. And really what this will tell me is that if there is a trailing slash after whatever it is that's named, right? So up here, we didn't really know. Down here, we can see that that indicates that it is a directory. So the trailing slash means it's directory. If we saw an @ symbol, it would indicate that's a link. If you see a star, it's an executable. These are less likely to be there, but you may see them on yours. You may also see colors to indicate which one is which. That's possible depending on your operating system. You can also use a flag that will show you the colors, which is very cool. Okay, and we're going to get into that next, is to look into what types of flags that you can actually check out. Okay. Before we do that, I'm just going to teach you one other little useful command here. And it's the clear command. If you get really cluttered and you don't like how messy your terminal starts to look, you can type in clear, Give me a second to type that in. Just that word, and then hit enter. And you notice that's why I took a second, because as soon as I did that, it did clear my screen. Now I'm just going to scroll on my mouse and you'll see everything is still there. It just brings me back up to the top and gives me a nice clean slate. I will try not to do this too much, or I will warn you before I do it, just so you can see the commands that come before it in case you fall a little bit behind. I don't want anyone to lose any commands there. Okay, so I just mentioned that there are a lot of other options that you can use. We've been looking at ls, so we're going to stick with that command of list. And now we're going to get some help. And we're going to look at the manual for ls to tell us what other options we can use with it that give us more information. So this is where I need to be very specific. There's two ways to do this. And this depends on whether you are on a Windows or a Mac or a Linux. So Mac and Linux are going to be the same, and Windows is going to be slightly different. So I'm going to type the Windows command in first, and I'll actually show you why this doesn't work for me. You're going to type in ls space dash dash and then help. All right, so there's only one space there, 2 dashes and help. And if you are on a Windows, go ahead and press enter and then just hang out there for just a second. You'll notice things change. For me, this command doesn't work on a Mac. Okay, so when I hit enter, it says illegal option. Yeah, just not a thing, doesn't work, okay? So for the Mac and the Linux, what we're gonna do is type in man, M-A-N, space ls. Okay, two commands that are gonna do the same thing for us. Okay, ls dash dash help is gonna bring up the manual pages. Man, which stands for manual, space ls is gonna also bring up our manual pages, okay? So let's hit enter there, and you notice that it changed my screen. Okay, I'm now brought somewhere new. This is the manual, as you can see, general commands manual, that's going to tell us more about the command ls, okay? And I'll go back to why it is actually that when we come back to our main terminal screen, okay? But first of all, I want to tell you how to navigate your manual page. And this is something that I generally have to look up because I often forget exactly what it is. First off, you can use your arrows. So key arrows, oh, I'm not on the wrong screen, there. Arrows, I can move up or down, okay, and scroll through. That can take a while because some of these manuals are quite long. So instead, what you might want to do is use B, okay, as in baby, okay, and in that, when I hit, oh, that is not working for me. Hold on. There we go. Sorry, I did it wrong. Space bar to go down and B to go back up by a full page. Okay, so now it just allows me to skip a little bit further up and down so I can quickly skim the pages without having to go line by line. Okay, apologies. So space bar is down, B is back. We'll think about the back. Okay. We can also search within the man pages. So you're going to use a / and you're going to type that. You'll notice if you saw my left bottom corner of my screen, it changed from a colon to a /, and then I can search for something. So let's search for color. I do need to use the US spelling of color. I tried the U earlier and it doesn't work. Okay, and then I hit enter. All of the options will pop up. Similar to scrolling by page, you can move between hits of what you searched by using N, okay, to go to next, or hold down Shift and press N to go back. Okay, that will allow you to move through the pages. This allows us to look at a bunch of different things. Before we leave the pages, I'm also just using my mouse there to scroll back up. I just want to show you quickly the basis of this command. So ls, the synopsis of your options. So these are all the different options that you can use. And then below, it's going to tell me what each of those options does. So if we scroll down to F, which we already used, okay, it says pretty much what I was telling you before, display a / immediately after each path name that is a directory, an asterisk after an executable, etc. Okay, so that allows us to understand a little bit more about what's going on when we use a command. Now, to get out of here, you're going to press Q. Okay? Hit Q and it'll take you back. Give everybody a second to do that. Hit the letter Q and you will be back to our terminal. Now, if you don't like how this takes you out of your terminal, if it kind of throws you for a loop, you can also access manual pages on the web. This is in the lesson notes, so happy to share that link later. Or you can find it in the lesson notes yourself in this lesson, okay? And that will give you the manual if you want to have it on the side or you want to sort of have a different window that allows you to search it. Okay, how's everybody doing so far? Can I get yeses for those who are following along, and maybe a no if we're going a little bit too fast and you want me to slow down? Okay, I'm seeing lots of yeses pop up. I'm going to take that as a positive thing. All right, so let's start looking at more of what's going on in our file system. So right now, we've used the ls command in order to look in the current directory we're in. But what if we want to have a peek into other directories? So let's hit the ls command again, just so you can see. The subdirectory of where I currently am in the G Fishbein directory is the desktop. So let's have a look in the desktop. So we're going to go ls space dash capital F, capitalization matters. If you notice, there was multiple options and there was different ones for different capitalizations for letters. So dash F space, and then desktop, again, capitalization matters here, okay? So now I have my command, my option, and my argument. So I'm saying, I want you to list everything in my desktop. And when you list it, I want to know what's a file, what's an executable, what's a link, and what's a directory. So let's hit enter on that. And now you're getting to see my desktop, which, because this is my teaching desktop, it's not too messy. Yours might have overwhelmed your screen. That's okay. Okay. As long as you can find your prompt again at the bottom, that's all right. But hopefully one of the things that you see there, because we all downloaded our data onto our desktop, is our shell-lesson-data. That should be there for everybody, okay? All the rest of the content is going to be different, but that should be there, okay? All right. Now we can take this one step further. Because I made you download this data, you're probably like, well, I'd be curious as to what's in there since we're going to be working with it. Let's have a look at that. So now we're going to use a path here, and we actually have been so far, but it'll be a little bit more clear. So here's a little trick. You're going to press the up arrow. So if your cursor's sitting right beside your prompt, press the up arrow. It didn't just magically type that super fast. That is going back to the last command that I ran. Okay, if I click it again, it'll go back to the one before that, which was ls, which is right here. Again, backup man, ls-help, etc. Okay, so if I just hit it once, it's going to go back to the desktop. Let's leave it there for a second, and then I want you to hit the slash, because now we're going to use a subdirectory, and you're going to type in shell-lesson-data. Okay, and then you can hit enter. I know it's a little bit hard to see on mine. There is ways that you can separate by color. We're not going to go into that today, but if you're ever looking for my last command, find the prompts, okay? Check that out, and then you'll be able to see what I've ran before in case you fall a little bit behind. All right, so we're able to, without moving where we are, have a peek into desktop, and now we're having a peek into the shell-lesson-data. So 2 other directories in there that probably hold other things, okay? All right, now what if we actually want to move ourselves and we don't just want to look in those directories? So the next command that we're going to learn is the cd command. Hopefully that's not too loud. I have a plow going by the house. All right, the cd command, exactly what it sounds like. CD, and it stands for change directory, okay? So now we're going to use this with desktop and to actually move into the desktop. So it's going to be cd space desktop. And I'm going to teach you another little key here for reducing typing errors and being more efficient. Start typing desktop, capital D, maybe E, and then you're going to hit tab. So tab, for me, it's right above caps lock to the left of Q. Once I hit tab, this is called tab autocomplete. Okay. Okay. Before I actually run this, I'm going to address, I know I see a hand up and I just saw something in the Unix shell. There is a known sort of flaw to this teaching lesson, because I know on some Windows, you need to move into your OneDrive in order to get to your desktop. So if you can't see desktop and it's giving you a no such file or directory, that's likely because it's in your OneDrive. So what you might need to do, and you can do this with the ls command first, is you can say ls desktop. If that's not there, hit ls OneDrive and see if your desktop exists there. You will just have to add that. So it will look something like, I'm not sure how OneDrive is capitalized, but it'll look something like this. Okay. Sorry, Megan, were you going to interrupt me to say that?
Yes. Yeah. Because we had a few questions in the Slack regarding that as well. So.
Yes. Okay. If you, okay, I'll address that one now too. So we are going to get to that in a second, but if you need to move back up one, cd space ... That will move you back up one. You can run that. Okay, so I'm going to give people a second there. I believe that's only Windows that has that issue, and it may not be all Windows machines. Yeah, okay.
Yes, thank you. The cd space ... helped as well for Windows users. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so hopefully you're able to locate your desktop. If you're not, right in the Slack channel, and if you're writing in it, what the helpers will likely want to know is what you can see when you type in pwd, okay, and what you can see when you type in ls. And then they might have you do the ls desktop command as well, okay? Okay, so for me, because you can see that when I type ls in my current directory, desktop is there, I don't need to do that. So I'm just going to go cd space desktop. And what I was just talking about was tab completion. Tab completion only works if desktop is there. So if it's not there, this won't work. But if it is there and it's unique, as in there's nothing else, no other files or directories that start with capital DES, I can hit tab and it will finish it out for me. So I don't have to type the whole thing. I think we're all interested in typing less and being more efficient. And then from there, I could go one further, but we'll take it step by step. So I'm going to hit enter here. And now you'll notice for the first time, my prompt has changed. Okay. Now I still have the $. Yes, that shows me where I need to type my input. But right here, it's going to tell me what directory I'm in. Yours might actually say all of them. Okay. Or yours might have this tilde, which stands for home, and then /desktop. It might look something like that, but just keep an eye on that as we move through different places, because that will give you some indication as to where you are at any place in time in case you get lost in your file system. Okay. All right, let's do this again. And this time we're going to move into shell lesson data. So cd space, and I'm going to start typing shell, SHE, and then I'm going to hit tab. Okay, so this is interesting. It has ended it at shell because there are two things. So if I hit tab again, okay, it gives me like the sound going, no, you can't do that. And then it's going to show me the two things that exist on my desktop because it doesn't know which one to choose between. So that just means I need to type a little bit more. So I need to add the dash instead of the underscore because I don't want this one. Okay, and then it will finish it out for me. And now I can hit enter. And you'll notice my prompt has changed again. I've moved into shell -lesson -data. All right, let's do it one more time. CD, and now we're going to move into exercise -data. Again, tab completion to type less. This is why we also have you download all the same stuff, because now it's all the same for everybody once we get into the shell -lesson -data. I might just call it the data for now. Okay, I didn't actually run that command, so let me run it. Okay, so now I'm in exercise -data. Okay, so now if I type in pwd to print my working directory, because I've now moved 3 times, so I'm in a completely different directory than I started in. Okay, I'm going to hit enter and let's see where I am. So this is now giving me a path, and this is giving me an absolute path from the root directory. So from the very beginning of my file system, where am I? Okay, and you can see there the steps that we took. I started here. We changed to desktop. We changed to shell -lesson -data. to exercise dash data. Okay. Now we did this in multiple steps. We could do this in a simpler way, and we're going to get to that shortly. But just to see where we've gone through. Okay. Now we haven't been in this folder yet. We haven't looked in this folder yet. So let's have a look around. Let's go ls space dash f. Hopefully you can still see that. I'll try to find a good point to clear my screen later. I just don't want to lose any of the commands for you guys. Okay, so I'm looking in here. We see a few different things. Looks like there's 4 directories, and we have a file in there as well. Cool. Okay. All right. So I did already address this in the chat, just to help someone out, but we have only been working in one direction, and we'll call it down into the directory tree. Okay. Remember, the tree starts at like a point, one folder, one directory, and then it moves down. But how do we go back up? So intuitively, let's go, hey, cd space shell dash lesson dash data, type that in to go one up. I hit enter. You'll notice I did not tab complete that because it wasn't going to work. And it says no such file directory. So that only works if it exists in the directory that I'm in. Okay, so if the place I'm trying to go is currently in my working directory. It is not, okay, because that is the parent directory of where I am. All right, so then how do we get back up? So there's a couple different ways. One of them we already listed in the chat. Okay, and that is cd space ... Okay, again, the spaces are important. cd, change directory, space, where to change it to, ... means up 1. So I hit that. You'll notice my prompt changed. I'm now in shell dash lesson dash data. And if I want to check that, I can type a pwd and hit enter. Indeed, I have moved. Okay, this is where I am now. This is where I was before. Okay, I'm just going to pause there for a second before I add any more. Okay, I want to clear the screen in a second, so I'll just let you look at the last few commands. All right, so I'm going to hit clear just to make this a little bit easier for everybody else to see. And we're going to keep working from here. I'm just going to add a pwd at the top so you know where I am and you know where you should be. Okay. All right. One other thing I want to show you here, I don't want you to be too concerned about at the moment, but just to understand a little bit more that there is even more behind the scenes here. We are tapping into a lot of it by showing you command line versus a graphical user interface, but there's even more there. And that is ls space dash f. So that same flag we were using before. And now we're going to add another flag. There's 2 ways to add another flag. You can just add it. Okay. A is the one we want to add. So you can just put it right next to the one that you just used. Or if you want to see it a little bit better, you can hit space and then hit another flag. Okay. Both of them are going to give you the same output. So when I hit enter on that, you'll see that some more things come up than were previously there. Before, we could only see exercise dash data and North Pacific Gyra, the 2 directories that were there. Now we see a little bit more of what's here. This command we just used, and that means 1 up. Okay. This, sorry, not command, location. This single period, it means right here. Okay. And hopefully we get some time for me to show you what that means, but that is an argument that you can give for a command to tell them that you want something to be here in the location you currently are. Okay. You may see other things in here as well. There may be a .bash _ profile. That's where you can change things like the colors that are added into your terminal. We're not going to go into detail on that now, but just so you know, there is some more under the hood there if you do feel like exploring it on your own. Okay. All right. So let's talk about other ways to move around with CD. So next I want you to type in CD and then just hit enter. And let's just see what happens. So my prompt changed, but where did I actually go? Let's type in pwd and see. So I moved back to my home directory. So I'm back in user/gfishbein. Okay, so if you just hit CD, you're going to go back home. That's a nice, easy one to know. Okay, If I get lost and I need to go back, just put in CD with nothing else, hit enter, and you'll be sent back home. Okay. Excellent. Now let's do what we did before, but in one step instead of 3 steps. So we're going to use tab completion as well. Let's move into exercise dash data in one line. So CD, first step is desktop. So CD space desktop. Okay. Hit tab as soon as you've typed enough letters. It might be just the capital D. Okay. Then start typing shell. Again, I need the extra dash here. Okay. Then it finishes that out. Notice how it's automatically separating it with a slash. And then you're going to type in exercise or start to, and then hit the autocomplete tab as well. And then when I hit enter, let's hit PWD to find out where we are. Excellent. I've moved back into the exercise dash data, and it did it in one line, and really very little typing. I think I typed about 6 letters there. So, okay. Okay. Now we need to talk about paths. So there are 2 terms for the types of paths that we use. Okay, we can talk about relative paths or absolute paths. I mentioned the absolute path before, and the absolute path is the entire path to a location that starts from your root directory. Okay. So it's similar to an agreed upon location where everybody will start from. How do I get to where I want to go? Starting from the beginning. Okay. The other type of path, and we just use this type, is a relative path. And that is, how do I get to where I want to go from where I currently am? Okay. It's very possible that that is shorter. Right. When you're writing code or you write a script, you're going to want to use an absolute path, because then it can be ran from anywhere, regardless of where you move within your file system. Okay. When you're working through like this and you're going line by line, the relative path is fine. Okay. This is important to wrap your head around. There's some more notes on this, but I encourage you to look into it if that wasn't super clear. All right, we're going to keep moving. Excuse me. Okay. I think there's just one other thing to point out, and then we are going to do a little exercise. I did mention this previously, this tilde right here. Okay, so next I want you to type in CD and then put in tilde. Okay, this can be found with shift to the left of the 1 and the exclamation mark. Okay, so that's where mine sits, is right above tab on my keyboard. Okay, that is tilde, and I hit enter. So what happened? Let's type PWD to find out. Where did I move? Back to my home directory. Okay. So this is useful as a short form for your home. Okay. So now that I'm in my home directory and I want to write, let's say I didn't know where I was and I wanted to write an absolute path, what I could do is go CD, use tilde, and then from there type the desktop and then shell dash lesson dash data. Okay, so it can replace my home directory. All right, let's do a little example. I'm just going to switch my screen share here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so this is the exercise we're going to do. Okay, it's absolute versus relative paths. You're using an example that may look a little bit different than yours, but you're going to need to try to conceptualize what's happening. So if you are starting from /user/Amanda/data, so you're Amanda, you're in this Amanda's home directory, and then you're into data, which exists in her home directory. Which of these following 9 commands could Amanda use to navigate to her home directory, which is users-Amanda? So essentially she wants to go 1 up. Okay, so take a second, think about these. I'll give you, just gonna go 4 minutes. Think about these, and then we'll take it up together.
Can you say something about having spaces and file names in Unix? Because some people are running into that.
Sure. I have a good diagram for that, actually. Oh, you mean, oh, you're talking about in the file names themselves, right?
Yes, because when
Okay.
they cut and paste that there's a problem.
Yes, we're going to get to that very shortly. I'll just say now, yeah, so what I'm referring to is if you have a file name and you're trying to type that in to work with it within the shell and it has spaces in it, right? So let's say I made my file name and it said, you know, Grace space file space best, right? If I try to put that into the command line, it's going to read those spaces as spaces between arguments or commands or options. So I keep mentioning that spaces are very important, and we're going to come back to this, but it will see them as different things. So if you have spaces in your file names, that's fine. You just need to put quotations around it, double quotes on either side of that full file name, okay, including the ending to the file. So if it's a .text file, that needs to be within that too. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, that helps, hopefully.
Okay, we'll come back to that a little bit more with naming conventions, but generally, yes.
Grace,
You may
someone
have
also,
noticed before, for people who work with command line a lot, or maybe you haven't, that's okay, is that generally you'll try not to put spaces in so you don't run into that problem, but there is workarounds if you did. Okay.
Grace, I just had a quick question. Someone was saying that the tilde command, the CD and then the tilde symbol wasn't working for them on Windows. Is that a thing for all Windows users, or is it possibly maybe they don't have the correct command?
I thought it was. Is there a Windows helper that can confirm that for me?
Yep, we can take it to Slack.
Yeah, I thought it was. My first check would be to make sure that I know the tilde is a bit weird, so make sure we've got the right key, make sure we've got the space between it, and are we indeed in git bash would be my next question, because there are different ways to use the terminal in Windows, things like MOBA Xterm. I think Putty's an old one, but anyway, I'm forgetting the other relevant ones at the moment, but those may treat them differently. So that would be my first 3 checks. Do I have any helpers on Windows?
Yep, we're assisting them right now.
You're checking it? Okay.
Slack. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no problem. All right, let's take this up. Okay, I'll move this over slightly so everyone can still see it while we talk about it. I'll rearrange this for you after. We'll go back to just the terminal, but just so we can run sort of a trial and error on it. All right, so what I want to do is, what we're trying to find out is which of these following commands could Amanda use to navigate to her home directory? So we're going to go back and use the stickies or the reactions, sorry, in Zoom. So if you think yes, that command will take Amanda back to her home directory, then you're going to put up a green. And if you think no, you're going to put up the red. Okay. So let me, what do I want to do here? Oops. Let me just move back to something equivalent here. CD/desktop. Okay. So being in my desktop is quite similar to Amanda being in data. Okay. So number one, do we think that that's going to move Amanda back to her home directory? Yes or no? Add it in the stickies. Lots of no's. You are correct. CD space dot doesn't move me anywhere. I said previously that the dot is here right now. CD change directory to here. I don't move. Excellent. All right, clearing the feedback. Next, CD space root. So that looks like this. Will that take Amanda back to her home directory? Okay, see lots of no's, one yes. Let's test it. So where am I? I am in the root directory. I'm not in my home directory. Okay, so I'm going to move back to keep testing this. Okay, so that one, no, it does not. Clear feedback. Okay, next one. CD/home/ again, I'm going to adjust this for me. Fishbein. Is that going to take Amanda home? Some yeses, some no's. Okay, this one is kind of meant to trick you. No, it's not going to take her home. It's going to tell me that I don't know where this is. Okay, so it won't send Amanda home. You need to be explicit with the computer. You need to tell it exactly what it wants. And this is the wonderful, sometimes very frustrating thing about working with computers. If you think you're right and you think the computer's wrong, you are often wrong in what you told it to do. So you might be right in what you're trying to think that you're telling it to do, but how you actually told it, it does not understand. Okay, so you have to be very logical about what it is that you want it to do. Unfortunately, we just can't say go home and it'll go home. At least not like that. All right, next, this is a funky one. CD space dot dot slash dot dot. Okay, is that going to work? I have lots of no's. Let's see, where did I end up? I ended up in users, it looks like. PWD. Good. So you're right. No, it didn't take me back to where I wanted to go. Okay. I'm going to clear my screen. Where are we? CD tilde, yes or no? Oh, sorry. I forgot to clear feedback. That's okay. You can just change your X to yes if you wanted to say that. As I hint here. So, oh, I'm in the wrong one. There we go. Okay. CD space tilde. Will that take her home? Yes, it will. Okay. Tilde will take home. Okay. I'm just moving back into desktop each time so I can simulate it. All right. Number 6, CD home. Again, is this going to work? Lots of no's. You are right. That will not work. It will tell me that I don't know where this is. All right, almost done. CD space tilde slash data slash dot dot. Does this work? We could have a nice debate over this one. Okay, let's test it. So that actually, oh, sorry. I see what I did wrong. So that didn't work, but it should have worked. It's because I was trying to move to data, not desktop. So that actually does work. It's just quite unnecessarily complicated because what happened there is I went back to home with tilde, which we just saw works. And then I went back into, well, she went back into data. I went back into desktop, which is where I am now. And then I went up one. Okay, you might need to look at that one. Again, if that was a little bit confusing. It's kind of designed to be, but it makes you think about where you're going. All right, what about CD with nothing? Just space, does that one work? Sorry, I just cleared the feedback there, so just put up your answers again. Yes, that one does work. That will take me home. Excellent. And last one, CD space ... Yes or no, does that take me home? More mixed on this one. So this one will, because of where I currently am. Okay, this one will not always take you home, but since I am one level below home, okay, it does. Okay, thank you everyone for providing your feedback. Let's continue on in the lesson. I'm going to switch back for my sharing here. And I'm actually, before I do that, I'm going to bring up, this is what I wanted. Oh no, this is not going to open like I wanted it to. That's okay. One sec. Ah, here it is. Okay. All right, this is what I wanted to share with you. So as I mentioned, there's some good figures here. The next one that's in the notes here, I particularly like to wrap your head around everything that we were just talking about. So this is your prompt. Okay, this is your command. We've been using ls as an example. This is really any command that you want to tell the computer to do, to use. Okay, this is your option. It might be more than one option. And this is your argument. Okay, the argument is telling you what you want them to you're entering it in to use the command on. So list everything that is in the root directory. Okay, you're telling it where to use that. Okay. Let's go back to just the terminal now. Okay, I think that's the last of my jumping around, so hopefully that wasn't too dizzying for everyone. And I'm going to clear my screen here. All right. So let's get everyone to move into shell lesson data. I'll give you a second to do that. Wherever that is for you, move in there. I will slowly start typing it here. Okay, so just to play with another flag that we were having a look at here. Okay, let us list, okay, the files and directories that are within exercise data. And when we do that, we're going to use a new option, -s. Okay, and with tab autocomplete, looks like that, ls space -s space exercise -data. Right, and what this does, this particular option, it'll display the size of the files and directories alongside the name. Okay. Again, if you want more information on what that means, you can open up your man pages. Remember man.l or man space ls or ls space -- help. The first was for Mac, the second is for Windows. Okay. Another thing that we can do here, and I'm going to use my up arrow to go back to the last one. The other thing that you can do here is go Control A, which will jump your cursor to the beginning of the line, and Control E will jump it to back to the end of the line. Otherwise, you can move with your arrows through it. It's not too long a line here for me now, but if it was really long and you wanted to jump back through and just change one little thing, that's a really good way to do that. Let's use this now with a capital S. So what this one does now is it's going to sort the files and directories by size. Okay, so it changed it from what it was. I don't know if I have it from before, but how it lists them before, it's in a different order. Okay, so just a couple examples of some other ways that you might use this. Okay, I think we're ready to go through working with files and directories. So now we're going to get into how can you create, copy, and delete files and directories, and how can we edit files. Okay, so let's make sure that we are in shell lesson data. Okay, we did just move there. And then let's have a look in this directory here. Okay, so we're going to have a look in writing. I want you to start, actually, sorry, we're going to move into writing. Let's do that. Move into writing. So we're currently in shell lesson data. You need to move into writing. Take a second, see if you can figure that out on your own, and then I'll start typing it. Okay, so CD exercise dash data slash writing. You may have noticed that it doesn't really matter whether I put the slash there or not. I'm still going to go to the same place here. Okay, it might be nice for completion to have a consistency of using it, but either way, you'll get added or you'll get some there. All right, let's have a look what's in this directory because we haven't looked in it yet. So let's go ls space -f. All right, so we've got two pieces of text here, littlewomen.txt and hiq.txt. Cool. All right, let's make a new directory. New command here for you, mkdir. Okay, space thesis. Okay, so make dir or mkdir means make directory. Okay, since we have not given it an absolute path, we've given it a relative path. It means that it's going to make the directory right here where we are. So when I hit enter, okay, there's actually no output. I don't know if we've had this yet, maybe one command, but it's helpful to know when you learn new commands whether or not you expect output. Okay, sometimes no output can be not a good thing, and sometimes that's exactly what you want. In this case, that's what we want. There shouldn't be any. Okay, let's see what we did now. ls space -f. All right, so before we ran this command, we only had 2 files that showed up. Now we have 2 files and a directory. Excellent, that means it worked. We made a directory. Good job. Okay, now let's get a little bit more complicated with it. I'm going to test your understanding of relative paths. So let's go make directory. So mkdir space, and then you're going to go dash lowercase p, and then we're going to go space. Okay, .. slash project slash data space .. slash project slash results. Okay. All right. So what this -p option, this one here, what that allows us to do is it allows us to use the command mkdir to create a directory with nested subdirectories in one line, one single operation. So now we're giving it 2 arguments. This is 1 and this is 2. They are separated by a space here. Again, spaces are super important. Okay. So what we're doing is 1 level up. Okay. We're making a folder that says project or directory, sorry, a directory that says project, same thing, that has data in it. And this one has results. So let's do this and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay. Okay. Now to look at it without moving anywhere, let's go ls space -f, and then we'll add another flag option, R, capital R. And with a relative path, we want to look 1 up and we want to look into project. Okay. The -r in this case, that option, to the ls command that we're using, will list all nested subdirectories within a directory. So it's going to show us everything in it. Okay. So let's hit enter and hopefully I'll be able to explain what I mean here. So in project, there's data and results. If we didn't use that R, that's all we'd see. But now we can see what exists within those as well. Okay. Now we didn't add anything in there. Okay. All right, here's where our notes come in on naming files and directories. Ultimately, you want to make your life as simple as possible when you're naming these, but that also needs to be informative. So that's really up to you for what makes the most sense given the research or project or work that you're doing. Okay. Some tips in naming things when you're working with command line, and these are often fairly consistent with coding and programming, but you're going to want to check depending on the language that you're using. One is to not use spaces. Okay. If you use spaces, what you would have to do is cover them with quotations. So if I was, let's say, had, do I have one here? Let's see. No, I don't. Let's say the shell lesson data one didn't have the dashes between and instead looked like this. That's how I would have to do it. Okay, so to reduce that extra typing and possible mistake and confusion, best to be naming your things without spaces. Don't begin names with a dash. Okay, that's your dash here. We've been using it as an option, and for less confusion, because the shell will treat it as an option, don't begin it with a dash. Stick with letters, numbers, periods, dashes that don't start the name, and underscores. Okay. Other characters, so I think you've already seen the @ symbol, the star, $sign, even ampersand, they have different and special meanings on the command line. So they could cause confusion if you're using them within your naming. And there's a whole little blurb on this in the lesson material if you forget or you want to look back. Okay, let us create a file now. So next thing we're going to do, okay, is we're going to move into the thesis directory that we just created. So let's go cd space thesis. Okay. And we're going to use a new command called nano. Okay. So nano is an editor that you can use. There are lots of different editors. Nano is a really great one to start with because it's quite user friendly. If you will be working with this quite extensively, you may want to dive into some different ones, particularly Vim, people like, but it is quite confusing. And one of the things even just is getting stuck in Vim. That's another story for another day. This is a great one to start with. So let's go nano and let's go draft.text. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second. If you've done that and you've typed it exactly as I have, hit enter. You'll notice your screen changes. I just want to give everyone a minute. All right, I'm going to hit enter now. So now I'm brought into a text file that I am currently creating. Okay, let's type a little text. It really doesn't matter what you type. I'm going to copy what's here in the notes. It's not publish or perish anymore. It's share and thrive, period. Okay, you'll notice there's a bunch of stuff going down here on the bottom. These are a lot of things that I can do with this file that I've just created. We're going to focus on just a couple of them. Okay, we're going to hit Control O. So Control O. You'll notice the bottom changed, and that is what I want to write my file to. So what's the name? If I'm happy with that name, I'm just going to hit enter. Okay, that was write out, Control O. And then I'm going to hit Control X to edit this. So Control X to get out of it. Okay. The control key is shown in a lot of different ways. I'm just going to type out a couple of them here. You don't need to type this right now. It can look like that. It can look like that. These are Control X. Okay. It may look like this, and you've likely seen some of these before. Like this. What we just saw was the hat. Okay, that means Control X, or that. Again, these are all in the notes. So if you see that, that's what it means. Okay, it means using control. Okay. All right. So we just made a file. Let's have a look and see if it's there. You can type in ls and see what shows up. So remember, we just created this directory called thesis. Nothing existed in it before. And now we have a file called draft.txt. Cool. All right. Notice that we called it draft.txt. So for this lesson, that's what we need. We needed a text file. This is, the naming is a convention, and it also gives your operating system an idea of what program or application to open a certain file with. Okay, you can essentially name this anything. We could call this draft.pdf or .cfg or CBS or .png. We could name it whale.mp3. Now I'm just throwing a lot of numbers and letters at you, but if I named it .mp3, that doesn't mean that it's going to be a song, right? Or an audio track. It just gives that indication to a program that would open it. So make sure that you have the right file conventions at the end, or the extension, sorry. But note that that doesn't tell everything about what the file itself exactly is. Okay. Let us move on to a new command. We're going to learn the move command. Okay. Let's make sure we're in writing. So let's do an absolute path. So CD space. Let's go tilde so we don't have to type the whole thing out. Desktop. Shell // data. Oops, I already had the slash. Exercise -data. And let's go into writing. Okay, hit that. I'm back in the writing directory. Excellent. So we just made this file draft.txt within thesis directory, but it's not a very good name. We don't like it. It doesn't really tell us much. So let's see if we can name it with something that we recognize a little bit more. Okay, so I told you we're going to learn the move command, but the move is also a possible renaming command. So we're going to go mv. Okay, and actually before I do that, let's do ls just so I can remind you that this is here. Okay, this is where we are. This is what exists here. Okay, mv space thesis. We'll type this out and then I'll let you know what's happening. Thesis / draft.txt space thesis / quotes.txt. Okay, so mv is a command that requires 2 arguments. So you know that little visual I showed you before where it said the prompt, the command, the option, and the argument? That only had 1 argument. This is something that you can find out in your man pages or the manual or your help. Okay, it'll tell you how many arguments a certain command requires. The ones we've worked with so far have required either 1 or none, and can use more. Okay, the move command does require you to give it 2 arguments. So what we're doing essentially is we're taking this draft.txt file that we created within the thesis directory, and we're renaming it to quotes.txt in the same place. Okay, so when we hit enter, nothing happens. Let's have a look. We need to look within thesis. Okay, hit enter. And now we can see quotes.txt. There's no existence of the draft.txt. Okay. You need to be careful when using your move command because this could silently overwrite a file. Okay. If you had ones with the same name, and that could lead to data loss. We just renamed it here. We didn't actually get rid of it and create a new one. Okay. But just as an FYI, and we'll come back to this, I think if we have time. One thing that you could do is if I was running this same command again, I'm going to use my up arrows to get back and Control A to get to the front. What I could do is use this option -I. And what that does is it's interactive, which means that it'll ask me to see if I'm sure. So if you're unsure whether or not you want to use that move command, or you just want to check your work and confirm it, use that -I. Okay. So now let's see if we can actually move this file. So let's go mv space thesis / quotes. Okay, .txt. So that's our first argument. We're going to take the file that we just renamed and we're going to move it here. Okay, don't miss this one. This is your command, move. This is your first argument, thesis / quotes.txt, space, and then a period. Remember, this is one below us, right? So it's in a directory one below us, and I want to move it here. So I'm going to hit enter. Now, if I look back in ls space thesis, okay, and I hit enter there, there's nothing there now. Remember, I ran this command right here, and our quotes.txt file was there. Now I'm running this command again since we moved it, and it's not there. So let's run ls right where we are, and you'll see it has now been moved here. Okay, that's how we're going to use the move command. Okay. Excuse me. All right, good. Okay, I think we've got time to finish this one. So next, let's talk about copying files and directories. So I'm going to clear my screen. I'll give you just 1 minute before I do that, just to finish copying any commands you may have missed there. Okay, so we're going to talk about copying commands, which works very similar to the move command. I'm going to hit enter on this clear. And now this actually copies a file instead of just moving it. So we're going to create a second version and either place it in the same place or a different place, we can decide. Okay. So let us take this quotes.txt file and let's copy it and put a copy back where it was. So hopefully I'm not confusing you too much with this. Copy quotes.txt. So copy space quotes.txt space. Now I need a relative path. So thesis / we're calling this quotations dot text. Okay. So just like the move command, we have the command cp copy. What do I want to copy? Quotes.txt. That's one argument. And where do I want to copy it to? Thesis / quotations.txt. So in this, I am indeed creating a duplicate of the file. And in the second argument, I can decide whether I want to change the location, which I'm doing, okay, and if I want to slightly change the name on it too, okay, which I've done. So, which is usually a good idea if you're making copies. Okay, I hit enter on that. Let's look. So ls, where we are, this one didn't move, it's still there. Okay, and if I ls into thesis, you'll see quotation.txt is there now too. Excellent. Okay. If you want to copy a directory, this is a little bit different. We're working with files right here. There is a way. We need to use an option. So let's go copy space -r, and this means recursive. Okay. So everything within it. Space thesis. That's always good to get a copy of your thesis work. And then we're going to call it thesis _ backup. So what we're doing here, using the copy command, I need to use this recursive option because I'm running a copy command on a directory, and I'm calling it thesis backup. Notice I didn't specify a new location. So this is just going to be where I am right now. Okay. Again, let's check it. ls. Excellent. So now I have, this is again when I ran the ls command before, and this is it now. Hopefully the number of times that I run ls and pwd are helping you understand sort of the check-ins that you can have to check what you're doing, right? This is really helpful when you're learning to just go, I think I'm going to do this. Okay, try to conceptualize what's going to happen, run the command, and then check your work. Okay. Okay, I'm going to keep going. I don't know if I said this explicitly before, but in the lesson content, there are a number of different examples in there. We don't quite have the time to do them today because I want to be able to cover as much as possible for you. And we have about 10 minutes left. But there is a lot of examples that would be really helpful to work yourself through. Okay, they have the solutions in a drop-down, so you can test it yourself. Again, see if you can figure it out without checking the solution and then check it afterwards.
Grace, we actually only have about 2 minutes left.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
That's okay. So the sessions are about 80 minutes because we usually try to leave a little bit of time for us to switch sessions. So is that enough time for you?
Yeah, no problem. I just want to do one last thing then.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, I forgot that. My apologies. I did think that going in. Okay, last thing. Let's talk about removing things that we've created or other things, files and directories. Last command here is going to be rm space quotes.txt. Okay. If I hit this, it will be gone. Okay. So I'm going to hit enter. We're not too worried about losing this. Remember, we did create a copy. I hit ls here again, and you'll notice quotes.txt is no longer there. Okay. There is no trash can, like you can't go back and find it. It's gone. So this is also where it can be extremely helpful to use the interactive flag or interactive option. Okay, just be sure. All right, if you're doing this, I can't run this now, it's not there, and I don't want to run long. So it will ask you, are you sure? Or do you want to see what's in this? And then you can check it.